5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Mr. Simons and Commissioners, thank you for being here. This is an extremely important subject, as you well know, and we in Congress are depending on you, and we're relying on you to help us through this, because it is something that we want to get right, and it's certainly something that our constituents and that the citizens of our country need to have right and to be done by right. Mr. Simmons, I want to ask you, where in the current law, where does the FTC's ability to enforce privacy, or where does it end? I mean, you know, I've heard you say before that the FTC is the cop on the beat when it comes to privacy, and I understand that, but you know, where does your authority end at this point or under current law?
Right. Thank you for that question, Congressman. So our general Section 5 authority comes from that 100-year-old statute, which was not designed, for sure, to deal with this kind of issue. So I credit my predecessors at the FTC for basically inventing a privacy program out of Section 5. I think they did a terrific job with the material they had available to them, and it's based largely on a deception authority. So we started out by saying you should have a privacy policy at your company, and then if you divert from it, then that's a deception, and we can hold you accountable. And then we expanded that to include, for example, things that look like privacy torts at common law, and we cover those under unfairness. But in terms of the general privacy authority, not including FCRA or COPPA or whatever, this is really it, and it's pretty narrow.
So you would agree that something more would help?
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're encouraging the Congress to adopt privacy legislation.
Okay, and not only for that reason, but I mean, if we look at the other laws that are being proposed, like in California and in Europe, you know, here we have a situation where we really need something to be preemptive, particularly in the case of what's being offered in California. I mean, it's very important that the private right of action that's being proposed in California, that would be an additional punishment on top of FTC action, as I understand it. And certainly, we don't need plaintiffs' attorneys to be involved in this. We need the FTC to be the cop on the beat, as you describe them.
Yeah, I think what I've said before is that we should be the enforcer of that legislation that you're considering, and you should allow the state attorneys general to enforce as well, just as they do in lots of other areas in conjunction with us. They're a terrific partner, and I would strongly recommend.
So you have the ability, and you do take action on fining certain, imposing financial penalties. How do you come up with that? I mean, how do you determine how much that is?
Well, it depends on the case that's involved. And just to be clear, we don't actually have any fining authority ourselves like our counterparts do in Europe. We would have to go to court actually to get a fine paid unless it was pursuant to a consent settlement.
Okay, so you have to go to court, so you have to justify it in court as to why you think it should be that much.
Yes. So that's the limiting factor in all of this. Anytime you're thinking about a settlement, if the settlement gets to a point where you say to yourself, gee, we probably cannot do nearly as well as this, or maybe we could do just about as well as this in litigation, but litigation has lots of risks. So when you get to that point, then you really should settle. I mean, that's the appropriate thing to do. Otherwise, if you're just going to go to court, irrespective of the settlement, then that really becomes almost unethical or potentially harassment.
So when the financial penalty is imposed, where does it go?
So specifically for a civil penalty, that would go to the Treasury. So that would be for an order violation or like in COPPA, we have civil penalty authority, that would apply there. With respect to our 13B authority, where we go in and get injunctive relief and we get consumer redress, that gets dispersed to the consumers.
Okay. Well, you know, again, I would look at this as being a tremendous opportunity for us as members of Congress to work in a bipartisan fashion to come up with something that would benefit everyone and certainly, you know, would benefit citizens. And if I get input of any kind, certainly privacy is one of the things that is on top of the list Constituents are consistently telling me, we need this, and this is something, we don't want to stifle innovation or anything, but we do need our privacy protected. So thank you very much, and thank all of you for your work on this, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields back, and now I recognize